The first factor is mission. That's factor number one. There's 8 of them. This is the first one. We all start our businesses. What's our business about? We have some notion of vision, something that we hope is going to be true in 5, 10, or 15 years, maybe 100 years. It's up to you. We make decisions day to day. There was a decision. There's another decision. There's another decision. And we're just hoping as we make these decisions, it's heading us to our vision. Another thing we use to make decisions are our values, which is our beliefs. There's certain things we're not willing to do in order to meet our vision. So the values are kind of like a navigation system. So as you think about factor number one, we're talking about mission, vision, and values. So let's talk about your vision. Right now, think about your business. Think about your business idea. What do you hope is true in 5, 10, or 15, 20 years? What are people going to say about your business? One thing the vision should do, it should be something that it's so exciting to you, you pop out of bed in the morning to do it. It's got to be compelling. If you talk to somebody about your vision and they start yawning, you got to work on a different vision. Okay, that's not the one. So it's a feeling that you have, because running these businesses is very difficult. It's very challenging. You know, there are some people who say to me, well, I want to wake up and know exactly the way my day is going to go, when the breaks are, you know, when unexpected things are going to happen. And I just say, get a job. Don't start a business. Because it doesn't work that way, as we know. You start the day, you have a plan, by 8:15 it's gone. Because things happen. Got to be dynamic. But there's something that you're trying to do that's very, very important, and that's the thing that pops you out of bed. I think it's very personal. You know, I've met with small business owners. I've done a lot of work with them all around the world in my career, as well as just myself. Sometimes I'll talk to an entrepreneur and I'll say, what's your vision? And they'll say, oh, it's to be the leading manufacturer of this product or the best service provider. And you can tell that's not really it. There's something else that they're trying to do. And it's usually deeply personal. They're usually trying to prove something to themselves, or maybe trying to prove something to someone else. So it's good to think about it, because that's really what's going to drive you. That's really what's going to lead your decision making, not to be the number one supplier or the top service provider. It's going to be this personal need that you have. Most of us who start companies are highly insecure, myself included. We have this sense of trying to prove something to ourselves. I think it's good if you know what that is. It's even more powerful at some point if you could share that with the people that work with you, so they can understand what you're really, really about. Spreadsheets make you feel good, but in fact, they don't do that much for you. It's the contribution or the difference that you make. Grows out of the things that you believe in. One of the things I really admire about many of the people who are here today is how they run their businesses and constantly think about the environment and the impact that their business is having on the environment. They don't feel like they deserve an award for it, as a matter of fact. Some of you run companies who are doing phenomenal things in terms of reducing waste. It's not even on your website. That's because for many of you, it's not a big deal. How could you imagine doing anything else? It's always remarkable as I work around people like that and get inspired. Your vision's got to inspire your team. And you may never attain it. That's my notion of vision. I know there's a lot of different definitions of vision, mission, and values. But my notion is that you're never going to make it. That's how powerful it is. It's like the person who says, my vision is that every child in this country will have clean water to drink. Well, if you say that in the United States, that's even a challenge. Outside the United States, many parts of the world, it's a real challenge. But it's a vision that pops people out of bed and drives them every day. Usually when I talk about vision, I find some examples like John F. Kennedy's Gonna Have a Man on the Moon, maybe some things from Winston Churchill, and other people that have communicated something very powerfully that they want to do. So as I was sitting and preparing for this over the weekend, I was just kind of letting my mind run free. And it's interesting how the mind works. I just kind of was Googling, thinking, and then it came to me. The perfect example of having a vision and knowing at the time you have a vision that you're not going to see it. But it's so powerful, it drives you every single day, even though you know you're not going to see the vision. And then the way things happen, the vision starts to become reality. But maybe you didn't even see it. But it was a grand vision. I think that was the case here. So once I stumbled upon this, how can I talk about anything else when I'm thinking about vision? Someone having a powerful idea and a notion. Martin Luther King Jr. saying, I've seen the promised land. He described it and also said I may not get there with you, but he saw it. His vision was right. A lot of times people will say, oh, the state of the world, it looks so terrible. We're going to hell in a handbasket. I just don't want to live anymore. Well, I do. I absolutely want to keep living, And one of the reasons is because he said he saw the promised land, and it looks good. I believe him. So that's vision. It's hard to come up with something as powerful as this, but I hope you're getting the notion. Your mission. A lot of you have missions. I've seen them on your websites. Great statements. And I'm talking about something slightly different in my nomenclature, but don't get too hung up on the wording. When I talk about mission, I'm talking about measurable things that your business is going to do. So the vision is lofty, bold. The mission, you can measure it. We have to serve 100 cups of coffee before noon every day. That's a mission. That's part of a mission. Then when you hit that, it's 150 cups of coffee every day by noon. You keep resetting it. The mission changes. That's my notion of it. It doesn't last forever. Vision lasts forever. Your values last forever. The mission changes based on things that are happening in your business. It's bold and compelling because the things that you're trying to do aren't easy to do. And it will be achieved. So I suggest you pick tough goals, but goals that can be met. They should be just beyond your fingertips. But people get demotivated when you set goals that they can't meet. It's not a mission statement. After you achieve the things that you need to achieve, as we think back to that map of moving towards your vision, once you achieve some things, then you set the next mission statement and the next mission statement. I usually like to look out 6 to 12 months, set some goals, hit them, make sure they're in alignment with my values and my vision, and then reset them. Your values. Normally, the values of the company are in line with the founders or the creators of the company. As you grow, it becomes a challenge to make sure new people understand it. But they start with the founder and the leaders. Many of you that are in this room have done this before. These are the things that you believe in. Maybe the environment. Maybe the way that people are treated. They treat one another. The reason that they're important is because in business, there are tough decisions that have to get made. And the toughest decisions don't get made on a spreadsheet. Some of you know what I'm talking about? Okay, you're moving through the day, and the unexpected happens. Excel's not going to help you out of that one. All right? Maybe you're running a restaurant, and some people eat some food, and they get sick. And you wonder, what should you do? And then another person eats something, and they get sick. Well, what should you do? Well, the spreadsheet says, keep serving food. Okay, your values may say something different, especially if you have a value that's about the health and concern for everybody who comes into your place of business. So in that example, you have a choice. You could say, well, the first guy had a ham sandwich. No more ham sandwiches. Second woman had a turkey sandwich. No more turkey sandwiches. And just keep playing Russian roulette until everybody's sick. Or maybe you close the business for the day and give yourself some time to calm down and see if it's possible that something that you're doing is affecting that person. I'm not trying to say that's what you have to do. I'm just trying to put out an example of how values and things that you believe in will drive a decision. The spreadsheet will tell you to keep serving food. Your values might take you someplace else. And it's easy to make a good values decision when you got lots of money. Oh yeah, we'll do this. Oh, give them this. Oh, give them that. But when money's tight, it's a lot harder. And in my experience, that's when these tough decisions show up. When profit's tight and cash is tight, something unexpected happens. And you make that decision based on who you are. These are some things that I happen to believe in. Not a complete list, but I just wanted to provide an example. You'll get more detail later. So I say honesty, cash register, and goal setting. I think we get the cash register part. But it's also in the way that we promise, we commit. The other is a willingness to change. I'd say if you know everything, then you probably don't know anything. It's about staying in the state of mind, because that's where creativity comes from. That you have a point of view, but you're willing to change it. You're open to changing it based on things that you're learning, and because you always want to be learning. Listening. I think constructive conflict is good. You know what I mean when I say constructive conflict? Two people having a different point of view. And you can passionately communicate the different points of view. But you want to be soft on the person and tough on the problem. There's a way to do it. That's how you do it constructively. But I've never seen high performance without some tension and some conflict. I just haven't seen it. And I've also seen sometimes you can be in a dialogue with someone and you have two different points of view and it gets kind of hot and somebody sort of wins and the other person kind of loses. And what I always want to do is put a nice bow on it and kind of hug at the end. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's just uncomfortable because conflict is uncomfortable, but you will survive it. Pursuit of perfection. I love that. I love being around teams that think perfection is possible. Now, you know it isn't, but you're going to try and kill yourself making it happen. I absolutely love it. I think most of us as small business people love it. We know what this means. It is possible with a pursuit of perfection to get more than 100% out of people. How do you get more than 100% out of someone? They think about your business when they're in the shower in the morning, while they're eating Cheerios, while they're on a bike ride. They're thinking about your business. When you've got a compelling vision, you're leading with your values, it actually happens. Different points of view. You got to have that. There's usually somebody on your team who sometimes when they start to talk, you go, oh, not him again. You need that person very much. You need that different point of view. You don't want to have a team that's full of like-minded people just nodding when you say something. That's the way to nicely nod your way out of business. Your business will doze off. Cash. This is factor number 2. Vision, mission, values is factor number 1. When I talk about cash, I talk about 2 different things. First is profit, and the next is cash, the stuff that you fold. If you have a choice between profit or cash, which one would you take? Cash. Very good. I would too. We're going to talk about why. So gross profit is basically money that comes into your business minus your cost gives you something called gross profit. And that's usually shown on something like this. This is 5 lines of a statement. Anybody know what this statement's called? Income statement. Very good. Some people call it the P&L. That's for profit and loss. Very important statement. These are the key 5 lines on that statement. Revenue at the top, that's money coming in. I put a happy face because I love money. And I have a check there. Because revenue is when somebody gives you money over the counter, or maybe they give you a credit card swipe, or you get to turn a check over and sign the back of it, which is always a great feeling. So that's revenue. Some people call this the top line. They call it the top line because it's the top line on the income statement. We have another line underneath that, which is called cost of revenue, which is what it costs you to actually deliver those goods, those baked goods, or deliver that service to your customer. And that's often called cost of goods sold. So some of you are in this business. Some of the cost of goods sold are the transportation truck, the little chocolate. We have some great chocolatiers here today. The flour and sugar, and the people that are used to put those goods together. Another is cost of sales. And this is for people who are in business that aren't necessarily making something. You're delivering a service. Maybe a law firm, an accounting firm. So it's the cost of delivering that service directly to the customer. So you can have cost of revenue, cost of goods sold, or cost of sales. So our gross profit. Then we come to overhead, which is the fourth line. And the overhead can be the office that you work in. It can be your telecommunications costs, your phones, fax lines, your utilities, electricity, water, your accountant in the black suit, and your lawyer in the blue suit. Probably should have two money bags over the lawyer. Okay, but this is overhead. And this is something that when you're in business, you're always trying to push it down. You're trying to always push down your cost of revenue, and you're always trying to push down your cost of overhead. So when you're on the phone with the attorney, you're talking as fast as possible. And you want an attorney who talks fast as possible. Because it costs you money. Gross profit minus overhead gives us operating profit. Then we have a sheet that looks something like this, an income statement, 5 lines. Let's take a look at this business. It went from 100,000 to 200,000 to 300,000 in revenue. It looks pretty good. And if you did you like this business? It's a good business. Great top line growth. The cost of revenue is about 50% of the revenue. Gross profit looks good. It's around 50%. Overhead's around 15%, and we have our operating profit. Good business. And what I'd suggest that you do in running your business all the time is know something about this income statement and to also look into the future. I call it scenario planning. So you're getting ready for the unexpected. What you don't want to do in business is wake up and realize you've got a problem that you could have seen if you had done some planning. So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, we did January, February, and March. Now we're going to model 3 scenarios. The first is the best case scenario, which is things go well. I like to start with that one because it's motivating. The numbers are big. The margins are big. So you start with that one. In this case, revenue went from 100,000. It kind of ticked its way up, went to 400,000, and then it got to 500,000 and plateaued. Cost of revenue grows because it costs more to do more business. So one of the things you're wondering here is, are you going to go 400,000, 500,000, 500,000 and come down, or are you going to stay in this state? Again, our cost of revenue is about 50% of our revenue. Middle case, this is when things slow down a bit. So we had this business that started at 100,000, got up to 300,000, and then came down to 250,000 and 250,000 in the months of May and June. That's still much higher than where the business started, so this is still a good business. But we're calling it the middle case. And then most importantly, we have the worst case. And I was saying that the worst case must be more than acceptable. The worst case, you still have to find a way to make money. So in this case, you can see that the revenue in April is 300,000, and then it dropped to 150,000 in May. It dropped in half. Have any of you experienced something like that? Okay, a lot of heads are moving. It's very painful. Nobody's smiling while they're nodding. This is normally where you lose one big client. You were too reliant on one big client. Something happened and they left. And it's really painful if you've gone through it. It's like Vicodin painful. Because one of the things that happens is in this business in April, you're at 300,000, and then your cost of revenue is 150,000, and then you lose that customer, so your revenue comes down to 150,000, but you can't turn your cost off just like that. Your customer can walk just like that, but your costs hang around.